Hey, it's Brian Osborne. I'm here on a pretty famous bridge here in London, England. Behind me, you see the Houses of Parliament and the beautiful architecture there. Also on the end here, there's this tower structure with a clock on it with a bell at the top, known as Big Ben to many of us. And right now, unfortunately, you can't really see Big Ben. We're just taken by faith that it's actually there. And then there's lots of beautiful stuff around this area. You got the Eye of London over there, pretty well known. Beautiful river, pretty iconic spot, really. If you've seen different movies, you might have seen this spot pop up on those different movies. And here, we're shooting a video here at this particular location because we came here to see a lot of different things that are iconic in London, do some sightseeing. And of course, I wanted to see Big Ben. It's just so well known. But as it turns out, it just wasn't the right time to see Big Ben. As you can tell, the tower is under massive construction and you can't see it from any angle. The timing just wasn't right. And sometimes from a human perspective, we don't get the timing right. And I'm going to use that as a connection to the lesson we're looking at with David and Saul, where Saul is trying to kill David, and David's been anointed the next king, but he's waiting on God's timing. You see, David to Saul was a threat. Saul looked at David as a threat to his kingdom, and Saul was obsessed with killing David, getting David out of the picture to protect the kingdom for himself and his family. So he was pursuing David, trying to kill him, and basically David's on the run in the lesson we're looking at. And he's just trying to survive. And there were a couple different instances where Saul's pursuing David, and David had a clear chance to take Saul's life and to try to manipulate the timing to when he should become king. And so one example is where Saul's pursuing David and his men. There weren't that many of them. They were hiding in a cave in the back of the cave. And then Saul goes into the cave to relieve himself. And he's wide open to attack and to be killed. And even David's men, they tell David, quietly, David, this is your chance. All right, God has obviously given Saul into your hands. Take his life and take the kingdom. David told them, no way, I'm not doing it. Saul, he said, is God's anointed king. God put Saul in power. God can take Saul out of power. I will trust the timing to God. I won't try to manipulate it. I'll trust God's timing in this. So he spares Saul's life. He actually cuts off a corner of the garment, of Saul's garment as he's there. Saul doesn't even know it. Saul leaves the cave. After he leaves, David comes out and shows the corner of the garment to Saul and says, Saul, listen, this is yours. I could have killed you. I didn't. I'm not trying to kill you. And Saul says, oh, David, I'm sorry. You're right. You're righteous. I'll leave you alone. Saul leaves. Of course, Saul was struggling with some issues at the time, as you see in the lesson. He changes his mind, goes after David again. And then another time, whereas Saul's pursuing David at night, Saul and his men are asleep. David and one of his men sneak up, take Saul's spear, and they leave, go on the hillside. And they call down to Saul, Saul, wake up. Hey, I've got your spear right here. I was right by your head. We could have killed you. My man wanted to kill you. I told him no. That God will do what God will do. We'll trust God's timing and all this. I've spared your life. I'm not trying to take your life, Saul. What are you doing? And again, Saul says, I'm sorry, and leaves David alone for a while. But he keeps coming back, keeps changing his mind. But here's a bigger picture of this lesson. What we're looking at here is how David looked at the whole thing. He was trusting God's timing. I mean, David knew he'd been anointed by Samuel to be the next king. He knew that was going to happen. And he could have tried to manipulate the timing of that to try to force it, but he didn't. He trusted God. He left it in God's hands. Not only was it God's prerogative to decide that he would be the next king, David knew it was God's will and right to decide when that took place. And he trusted God's timing. And just as David trusted God's timing, you know, we can trust God's timing as well. A lot of times we don't get the timing right, and the timing doesn't make sense to us. But if we will just trust God with his timing, it'll work out just right for his glory and our good.